Moshpit Passion, for the passion of the music.
Herzlich willkommen hier bei Moshpit Passion auf YouTube. Ich bin der Kajo. Wie ihr sehen könnt, ich bin nicht alleine hier. Neben mir Björn, Strid von Soilwork Orchester. Ihr kennt ihn garantiert. Ihr habt ihn schon mehrmals hier bei uns bei Moshpit Passion auf YouTube gesehen. Allerdings ist es jetzt erst das zweite Mal mit seiner Band Soilwork und darum geht natürlich auch hier das Interview. Die Band hat eine neue Single veröffentlicht, ist aktuell auf Tour mit Arch Enemy und In Flames und mal schauen, wo uns die Reise so hinbringt, weil wir auch so ein bisschen über diesen Melodic Death Metal Gothenburg Sound unter anderem sprechen werden und wie sich dieser entwickelt hat. So Björn, thank you very much to have you here once again.
Well, thank you for having me.
And I would really like to know, how do you see the current status of Soilwork? Because you released a new single and of course I watched the video single of it and was like, wow, it's going a little bit more freshier, like fresh metal sound, a little bit back to the roots, but more with a modern approach to it.
Yeah.
And how do you see the band, the current status and the vision of it?
Well, hard to say. I mean, we decided to just, approach things quite slowly this time around because we've been through a lot, as I'm sure you know.
Yeah.
And, Simon joined the fold now and is a great guy and fantastic guitar player. I mean, he's been playing with us live for a pretty long time, But he contributed with this new song and it has a little bit of a thrasher side to it and kind of like more Soilwork, like rootsy kind of feel, but also, still blended with the more current elements that we're known for. So it's really hard to say exactly where we're gonna go, but I mean, I would say that the sound is going to be slightly more metallic, whatever that means. But I also feel that, we discovered so many amazing things through when we did Whisper of the Atlantic, we did Verkligheten, and we did Övergivenheten. And those elements we want to take with us, But I think there's also maybe old things that we want to revisit and bring back again. And I think this new one has, as you said, has more sort of like a metallic vibe over it. But I mean, we keep on evolving, and I never want to fall into like some kind of cliche or trying to rehash things, So it's I'm as curious as you are where we're gonna go. But I think this song is maybe giving you a little bit of a hint where we're going. But we always try to experiment as well. It's too early to say if there's going to be a full album anytime soon. I think we're, like I mentioned before, approaching things slowly. Getting close to start, doing some songwriting, and it might happen on this tour. I have the guitars right here, so
nice.
Who knows what's going to happen.
So you already answered my next question.
Okay,
because,
sorry,
no problem. Because it would be if there's something bigger coming, like a full record, or is it a standalone single to promote the tour? But you already mentioned more or less it's a standalone single to figure things out and also to promote the Korean tour.
Yeah.
And also saying, see all kind of equipment, guitar, etc.
We're very mobile these days. Yeah.
And creating stuff in the future, for the future at least. And what I've also found interesting when it comes to the visual appearance, because in the Korean music video single, you used your classic logo, the guy with the hammer and etc. And which is also, for me, actually was like, all right, there's a connection to the roots. Also. And was it like planned also like that, or was it idea like, hey, the sound is some kind of going back to the roots and let's bring also visually some elements back which we did in the past, or was it like natural, hey, we want something classic?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's more like we're introducing a new era, that after everything we've gone through and I guess you can go through like saying like the different marks of Soilwork. We've been around for quite some time, and that symbol has been with us since the very, very beginning. And it's very important to us, it's been with us this whole time, on T-shirt designs. But we also felt that maybe it's time to bring it, into one of our videos to sort of mark the new era and wherever that's going to take us.
The title "Spirit of No Return", is it also like, all right, this is Spirit of No Return, like we're going to a new era? Is
Yeah, I mean, it's too late to go back now. It's kind of like that, you know. You're say it's in there. It runs so deep, you know. It's such a big part of your life, you know. So I mean, the song has different meanings too, you know. And but that's one of them. How I see it, it's like there's no turning back now, and it's like I'm not 23 and a half anymore. I'm getting up there, but it's like there's no turning back, and I still appreciate what we're doing, and but also you know, Spirit of No Return also deals with sort of symbolism, how people try so hard to belong to something, you know. And I'm talking like strictly lyrically now, and how people are desperate to belong to something, and sometimes they end up in the very wrong place, you know. So,
Yeah, definitely what you could see in our society actually is going on, and also discussion on social media, especially, or let me say, when something is happening, everybody is giving attention and everyone's some kind of reaction in the moment when things happened. And if you don't act like people how they think, or their own, let me say, mindset is, they're like, they want to cancel you and ignore you, and it's also some kind of no returns somehow.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous as
I
hell.
know. Yes, I know. It's so weird. Everything. Yeah.
And what I also want to talk about is the Korean tour, because it's a huge lineup, all classic melodic death metal bands on one tour run. And also, if you look back in the past, from where you started, and now also these now, how can I say, sold out venues, very packed venues. Do you ever thought about in these categories when you started Soilwork with your vision, like one day I want to be on a tour with a huge crowd and packed arenas all over Europe? Or how was your mindset also back in the day? You remember that?
I don't think that was even on the map. You know, I mean, I was just happy to hang out with friends and discover metal together, and create songs, and then next step, releasing an album, signing with a label, playing live, playing in Europe. I mean, that was, I don't think it just happened, you know, kind of, but those, I don't think there was ever, of course, maybe you were thinking every now and then, oh, it would be cool to one day to play in front of like a huge crowd or arena crowd, but I never thought it would be something like this. And here we are, 3 bands coming from the same era, you know, from Sweden, and some pretty big places, you know. Pretty big. It's no monster arenas, but you know, there are arenas, and they're mostly sold out. I think it's fantastic, you know. I think it says a lot about Swedish metal. I mean, and this is quite extreme music as well, so it's like, it's not mainstream, you know.
This is something very interesting, because it's not that commercial.
No.
General metal was never that commercial, and especially when, let me say, in the mid 90s, Gothenburg sound, Swedish melodic death metal came up from Sweden. I mean, Sweden is a small country with so much good music and bands, not especially in metal, like rock music, pop music, etc.
Yeah.
And 3 of them are playing tonight here in front of a sold out venue of 7,000 people.
Yeah, incredible.
And
it's fantastic.
Do you remember back in the day how it was? I mean, when you came up, there were already bands like At the Gates, Dark Tranquility, and Flames. And like I said before, your sound and also the sound of the 3 bands, also Arch Enemy, is connected to melodic death metal, Gothenburg sound. Do you remember how you or the other guys reacted to that? Was it just like, what can I say, a category where everybody wants to put you in? Or was it for you like, yeah, it's a huge honor to be connected with those other bands and to this genre?
Yeah, I mean, at first, I guess, since we were, you know, forming the band in Helsingborg, and because of our sound, people automatically thought it was like Gothenburg. But we always wanted to sound a little bit, you know, different than that. I guess we had some other influence as well. We were so into everything Devin Townsend at the time as well, and you know, we were really into Carcass hard work. That really inspired us as well. So we had I don't know, it's hard to say, but we already from the get-go we wanted to do something very personal, but at the same time we were also spending quite some time in Gothenburg and recording at Studio Fredman and hanging out together with the guys in Flames, and got to know them at a pretty early stage, and it was fantastic times. And of course you got inspired from each other. It was an amazing scene there, and then and of course Arch Enemy, we also at a very early stage got connected because Mike was working at a comic store, like a record store / comic store in Helsingborg. So we got to see him there, and he actually listened to our first demo and handed it to some labels. So we got to know him quite early, and this was, I remember, right when he was about to start Arch Enemy.
Crazy.
And he played some demos. And I mean, it's pretty cool. But I mean, we didn't really mind, being a part of that whole scene. And I think maybe it was the same for Arch Enemy as well, because they were from Halmstad. They were not from Gothenburg. And they were also slightly different than for example, Dark Tranquillity at the Gates and In Flames. So it's, for us it was quite easy to separate the different sounds, but maybe for the average person out there or magazine, they were just like, it makes it easier to put it into one pot and just call it the Gothenburg sound, But
I mean, actually there are 3 main records, you can say: Slaughter of Soul by At the Gates, Clayman, In Flames, and Dark Tranquillity, which are the base of everything. And then Soilwork came, Arch Enemy came. Everybody was like, putting into one pot. And connected to Gothenburg, even it's not from the city there, like you also mentioned before. I don't know if you were sometimes thinking about that this kind of sound era or scene built the base for something which became, let me say, modern metalcore, for instance, 20 years ago.
Absolutely, especially in America. And then that, crossed over to Europe and
like a German band, Caliban, for example. Their bass player, or ex-bass player, he's not playing anymore, he's a friend of mine. He told me how they are into, or he actually was into Slaughter of Soul, for instance, and also In Flames, Arch Enemy, Soilwork, etc. And how this sound shaped their sound, and also the sound like Killswitch Engage, As I Lay Dying in the US, but they didn't know that was Heaven Shall Burn, Caliban here. And you have US scene and the Europe scene. Everything comes from, let me say, a couple bands from Sweden, and this actually became
quite remarkable, when you think about it.
And it became one of the biggest genre with the biggest infrastructure, metalcore at least. I don't know if there's ever has been infrastructure like when it comes to thrash metal or melodic death metal. Like there's a merch company which is only signing bands with a metalcore sound. Impericon, I don't know if you're familiar. Impericon festivals, Impericon YouTube channel, Impericon magazine. It's a huge infrastructure and everything based on your sound, which you created 30 years ago.
It's quite crazy when you think.
One last thing I would really like to know is when it comes to newer bands from, let me say, Sweden, and they're trying to be second Soilwork or second In Flames. What kind of advice would you give them? Like, hey, please try your own thing in the first place, or is it like, hey, it's thank you very much that you try to be us, but don't be a copycat.
Right. I mean, that's very hard to say exactly what kind of, because it's such a different scene. It's completely different circumstance. Everything, conditions with labels and social media. When we started out, there was none of that. But when it comes to writing music, I mean, I think maybe it's even more sort of label based, that you need to belong to a certain genre these days, or is it the other way around? I can't make up my mind, because I mean, I feel like, because we were really all over the place. We also, I mean, we toured a lot in America at a pretty early stage, and of course we also got influence from what we heard and saw there. And I think it was the same case with In Flames. I think they can also agree to that. And so we were, and that was fine. Whatever you felt like writing, It was fine. It has some metalcore influences, I guess, but there was still like the classic melodic death metal in there, influence from thrash and classic death metal, and so we were kind of all over the place, but somehow find a recipe that felt quite personal. So I guess it's just don't be scared to experiment. You know, I think that's very important. Instead of just like, okay, these guys are metalcore, that we want to belong there. You know, it's like that might sort of limit your sort of visions a bit. So I think just don't be scared to experiment.
What I really like about...
And I don't mean drugs, kids. I mean music. Yep.
And the good thing is when it comes to Soilwork, you are also very, very open-minded about different sounds, especially like the 3 previous records or your early years, or when it comes to Stabbing the Drummer, the record before, the record after, and definitely looking forward for the new music, because also, like I said before in the beginning, something from the past and also something new which you are combining, and wish you also all the best. Looking forward for a new output, record, EP, LP. We see definitely in the future.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Björn.
Thank you.
See you next time. Thank you, guys. Very important for you out there. Put everything down in the description. Please check out Soilwork also in social media, and of course their brand new song. Thank you very much. See you next time. Bye.
Bye.
Moshpit Passion, for the passion of music.